Bernard, thanks so much for joining us inside the Ice House.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
When you just look back at the milestone that is 25 years and everything Edwards has achieved since, what stands out most to you about the company's evolution and the journey it's taken to get to this milestone?
Yes, I will say we have had amazing successes in becoming, who we are today. One of the most iconic medtech innovators. But what I like a lot is about, how we did it. We did it with having an amazing culture where we care about patient. We care about, changing, patient care. As a matter of fact, this morning, we had 2 patients with us. To be a great reminder about, what we do and why we do it. And to send, clearly a message to everyone that, the patient are at the center of all of the decision-making we are making every day.
And so you mentioned having 2 patients with you to ring the opening bell earlier this morning here at the New York Stock Exchange, marking, again, this 25th anniversary milestone. Just take us inside that moment, what it meant to you and to the Edwards team, and how it sort of reflects the company's ongoing momentum and the company's mission as a whole.
It is always, for us, it is important we always are matching our cultures, our employees, our innovation strategy all together. Everything is connected. And when we do that well, we are very successful as a company. We have been, the leader in cardiac surgery for 65 years, the leader in TAVR for more than 20 years. And for the last 7 to 8 years, we are doing the same for mitral and tricuspid patient. So truly it is about connecting the dot, for anyone, following, the company.
And you talk a lot about culture, and you took over as CEO in 2023, joined the company back in 2015. But over the last 2 years, when you come into a company as a CEO, you want to, spread your vision. You have a clear direction of how you want the company to go. What was your process in making sure that the company, or that you were able to instill that culture within the company, that culture of patient first? And I guess just what was it like to breathe that out to all of the company's, thousands of employees?
That's a good question, because all new CEOs, they do the same. They assess, the company where, the company is at, and making sure, that there is, a great vision for the next, 10 years or more. And, what I did was first, looking at what is key to our success long-term as a company. I call that our foundation. And for me, it was all about, making sure that I was keeping our foundation the same. Culture, patient at the center, innovation strategy. And then I went into how to make sure that Edwards is going to remain, this very special company, this very successful company. Therefore, the decision to expand, beyond, the businesses we had, and, going into, the full, structural heart disease spectrum. And we made some investment last year internally and externally, to be able to help, more patients.
So while Edwards Lifesciences listed here 25 years ago, its roots go back even further than that to 1958, when engineer Miles Edwards and Dr. Albert Starr developed the groundbreaking Starr-Edwards mitral heart valve. So can you just take us back to that origin story and share how that innovation helped shape the company's mission and its culture from the very beginning?
Yeah, and this is where, everything started, 65 years ago. In 1958, an engineers and a cardiac surgeon, partner to basically develop, the first ever artificial heart valve. At the time, it was seen as impossible. And, this is truly, who we are as a company today. We like to go first, we like to take risk, we like to innovate, when nothing exists. When you do these kind of things, you learn a lot. And, and we see that, learning as you go is part of the innovation process. When we failed on a project, we look at the learning, we apply, the learning. We see that as a way to accelerate our innovation process. Our engineers are used to do that, and we apply this process across the company. We apply this process 20 years ago when we came up with the first TAVR technologies, and today more than 1 million patients have benefited from our TAVR platform Sapien, which is the most adopted, the most learned, and the most studied platform. So this is today how we do things. We start with basically a very large unmet patient need. We put our best mind behind it, and we start the learning process, the innovation process, and again it is truly remarkable that for a company like ourselves, very mature company, since 65 years, a leading in the space, we are still able to innovate the way we are doing today.
Over the last 10 years, how has your perspective on the company evolved, and how have these experiences leading these different groups within the company shaped the way you now lead the company as a whole?
My experience has been very helpful. When I came in 2015, I was leading the cardiac surgery division, which is the historical business unit of a company. I learned excellence. I learned the importance of durability of a valve. I learned, the importance of partnering with surgeons, with customers, in order, to take care of patients, the best way possible. And then, a few years later, Mike, the CEO at the time, the first CEO, I'm just, the second CEO, also, showing, the continuity of a company. So Mike, came to me and said, are you up, to an amazing challenge? It is not going to be an easy challenge. But what we want to do is basically, change patient care again for a different kind of set of patients, mitral and tricuspid patients. Are you up for this challenge? And I said, yes, Mike. And I did that, for more than 5 years. I learned a lot here about, how to take risk, how to think long term, how to have, multiple bets to make sure that at the end you are successful. And, this combination of leading our historical business, the cardiac surgery division, together with this new business unit at the time, TMTT, prepared me a lot, for, my role today as a CEO of a company. We always want to be having breakthrough technology, high quality of science. At the same time, we want to be innovator, be agile, being able to move fast, to be first. And I hope that we will achieve that. I trust our employees are behind, who we are as a company. They want to do that. They want to be part of a company successful. They want to be part of a company taking care of patients. They want to be part of a company innovating every day.
And so take us back to those early days of May of 2023 as you take over the CEO. And again, I've spoken to a lot of guests on the podcast that are in CEO roles, whether they've been in them for 5 years, 10 years, 5 months, only a month. And oftentimes they come from different industries and have to learn an industry. But as I said before, you had the benefit of being with the company for a decade. How did that benefit you now taking over the whole company, already knowing the industry, already knowing the ins and outs of the company?
I believe it helped me a lot, but also, before coming to Edwards, I have been 20 years, before Edwards in the medical device industry. So I knew well already, the medtech industry. What my 10 years with Edwards gave me is the understanding about how complex it is to develop a heart valve. It is not like any kind of a medical device technology. This one goes into your heart, and it is beating, 30 million times a year, 30 million times a year. And we want this valve to last for a long time, 10 years or even more. So think about, the excellence in innovation you need to have, to do that. And my experience at Edwards, gave me this deep understanding about, what to do, how to do it. At the same time, how to take risk, how to be thinking long term to make sure that the company remain, this very special company we are today.
So 30 million times a year, you want the heart valve to last, you said 10 years, if not more. That's a lot of pressure. How does that pressure drive you to succeed?
I don't necessarily, I will not say, pressure. I will say commitment. Mm-hmm. We are confident about, what we do, how we do things. Our engineers are amazing. Our clinical people are amazing. Partnership with physicians are best in class. And all together, it is an ecosystem. We are all committed, to change the practice of medicine for this patient. And there are so many patients in need. So it is not about pressure, it is about commitment.
One of the most significant indicators of Edwards' evolution was the sale of its critical care business last September. What was just first the strategic thinking behind that decision, and how does it align with the company's, you said, sharpened focus on structural heart innovation moving forward?
Yeah, the thinking was about, making sure that the company was set for long-term success. And critical care was and it still is an amazing business, but not close to our core, structural heart disease. So the decision was to find the best company to host critical care, so the employees will be well taken care of, the patient and physician also. At the same time, for us, Edwards Lifesciences, to have a sharpened focus on structural heart disease, it is a huge opportunity. And it will represent for us a growth opportunity and being able to sustain our growth trajectory in the next many years.
So Edwards has a reputation for being mission driven and relentlessly focused on innovation, some of which you touched on earlier. But with that comes the challenge of balancing long-term vision with obviously short-term business demands. So how do you navigate the tension between the two, and what have you learned about managing the relationship between the long-term and the short-term as CEO for the last couple of years?
Managing both is critical. All CEOs are facing the same challenge. The way I do it is I never lose sight of a long term. If you don't have a long-term planning, obviously you are not going to be successful as a company. At the same time, part of this process, you need to take care about the current year, next year, and I also look at the next 3 years. So in my mind, it is always about long term, 7 to 10 years, the next 3 years, and current and next year. And being able to balance that, looking at resource allocation, strategic decision, where you are placing your best talent, what kind of capability you need short term to enable the long term. Because if a short term is not happening, you cannot enable the long term. If you don't have a long term, the short term anyway, it doesn't matter. And it is always, having all of this, in your mind, and also, bringing your leadership team with you, having the conversation about it, making sure everybody is aligned across the company about strategy of a company and what needs to be done this year.
So Bernard, staying on the topic of innovation, from your perspective, how would you define the company's innovation philosophy, and how does that ethos seamlessly translate from research and development in the lab to improving outcomes in patient care?
We have a very unique innovation strategy where first, we like to look at, large, complex, unmet patient needs within structural heart disease only. And then, we want to be first. We want to be first, we want to bring, breakthrough technologies where the benefit of being first is you don't know, obviously, what to do, how to do it, but you partner with the best mind in the world, the best physicians, the best innovators, the best, the regulators, the payers, and also, you bring your engineers, with you toward, this journey. So by collaborating like this, you create a path, you learn together, and then you create a therapeutic, category, and people remember, and they are, working with you, they trust you. You have a reputation. And at the end, what's key is to have best-in-class technology and having high-quality science. So physician can make, the best decision to treat, their patients. And this is, truly how we do it. I believe it is very unique in the medtech industry. For sure, it is bold. There is more risk. It is more complex. But we are very well equipped, to do that. If you look at, the way we invested, making sure we have, the best engineers, the best infrastructures, all of the labs, all of the equipments, the investment, the agility, to be able, to learn, and change, course when things are not going the way we want. So that's all, part of our innovation processes.
So best in class technology, high quality care, that collaboration aspect as well. But talk to us just about now the process of determining when innovation is needed. Because I look at innovation as, oh, there's a problem. Someone needs to create something to then solve that problem. What's the innovation process for Edwards Life Sciences?
We start with the need, the patient need. Within structural heart disease, because we have a very sharpened focus, and we are, the only company only solely focusing on structural heart disease. So we know well, structural heart disease. We look at what are the needs within structural heart disease, and then, what are the issues that we are trying to solve. What kind of technology do we need, to do that? And again, we have 65 years of experience in the space, and we put, the best, people behind it. We run, large, high quality clinical studies to prove that this new technology is indeed solving the issue, is safe and effective, for patient. And when we have, this result, then, we get an approval and we launch the technology, to many patients. As a matter of fact, I want to give you an example, which is in my mind, an amazing example, two amazing examples. The first one is about, the one we already talked about, 65 years ago, the first artificial heart valve. This was not existing at the time. About 20 years ago, we had, this very bold vision about, can we deliver this valve to the heart with a catheter, without opening the heart, without opening the chest? At the time, it was seen as a very crazy objective. People were telling us, especially, our former CEO, that, it was almost, impossible to achieve. And they were trying to convince us against it. We remain committed. We were sure about the fact that we will be able to solve and crack the code. And we did it. And 20 years later, 1 million patients receive, our amazing, Sapien TAVR platform, which has amazing outcome, great safety, great quality of life, and so this is, the kind of things that drive us across, the company. Big-ish, complex needs, going with, big innovation to change, patient care, basically.
So Bernard, as we begin to wrap up our conversation here at the NYSE, earnings typically focus on clear financial metrics, right, that indicate whether a quarter has been strong or weak. But beyond those numbers that we see on a spreadsheet that people reference in an earnings call, how do you personally measure Edwards Lifesciences' success and assess whether the company is truly fulfilling its mission and long-term goals?
I would say I never start with numbers. I always, wherever, I talk to investors, analysts, the finance community, or patients or physicians, I always start with, the company we are, how we do things, what we care about, the patient, our innovation, our commitment, our reputation, the trust that people have in us. And then obviously, numbers are important. For us and for me, it is about making sure that Edwards remain, this top-tier growing company, leading company. For instance, market share is important for sure. It is not, what guides us. It is not, the way we are driving, the company. We look at creating markets, impacting patient, and being able, to be the leader, and the leader, for a long time. And if we do all of that, you will have a high market share. By the way, we are leader in everything we do. And you drive, value, to patient care. You drive value to the healthcare systems, and you drive value to society at the end of the day. So it is, truly, how we think about it and how we think about value creation to the entire ecosystem.
So we spoke earlier about balancing, obviously, short-term business demands, long-term vision as well. But as you and your leadership team are positioning Edwards Lifesciences for the next 5, 10, 15 years, how are you plotting the company to sustain the success it's already have as well, or it's already has had, as well as build on, find these new opportunities, make these new investments, and make sure that that success remains a decade from now.
Exactly. And this is what we do, as a matter of fact, last week as a leadership team, we spent a week on looking at the next 7 to 10 years. And this is, the way we did it. We did it about, hey, let's ensure that, we are going to invest in area where we are not here today. And also, making sure that the current technology we are well funded, and making sure that we are going to take care of a short term, 2025, 2026. What I said last year at our investor conferences, for investors, that they can expect, Edwards Lifesciences to be a double-digit growing company, and that the EPS will grow, faster than the top line. So in addition of doing good to society and to the world, also, being a very profitable, company, being a top tier, growing company.
Well, Bernard, we appreciate all that you and Edwards Lifesciences does for the greater community. Thank you so much for joining us inside the Ice House.
Thank you so much, and have a great morning.